Hello, everyone. I'm guessing if you're here, you've definitely had that nudge, that universal nudge to do or be something that you haven't done or been before. And then this resistance pops up. And you're like, what does that mean? Does that mean I'm not supposed to be doing this now? Well, my guest today has named her company the most awesome name ever, Finish the Book Publishing. And really, that's kind of a metaphor for my life is just finish the book. And so without further ado, I would love to bring on the absolutely wonderful and fabulous Susie Schaefer. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Julianne.
I'm excited to have you here. And, for those that are watching, we met through a mutual friend who said, you two are going to hit it off. And we did. Oh my goodness. I have had the honor and privilege of speaking with Susie a few different times. And I'm excited that you're here today because I want to share you in we can't fit all your brilliance into 26 minutes, but enough to spark the interest so that everybody out there that's watching can come and find you and get to know who you are even more. And in the interest of doing that, the thing that I want to ask you first to start it off is always going to be fun, but what is something about you that maybe we can't find about you on the internet?
That's a great question. And I think probably the best answer for that would be when I was little, I wanted to be a mermaid. And actually, I think that I probably was in a past life, but so my family always gives me a hard time about it. I actually love it. It's all in good fun, but I do have an entire collection of mermaids.
Oh, I love that. And I bet now everybody who knows that and never has is giving you some sort of a mermaid.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's your spirit animal. So not that a mermaid's technically an animal, but you understand where I'm going.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
No, I love that. And, I know that you're so much more than what you do in your day-to-day life, but something, I started out by saying, finish the book publishing. And it's such a fun name. And, you and I were talking before, and I said something to the effect of it just shows your sense of humor. And it really does. And I would love if you wouldn't mind sharing with us how that name came about.
Well, the original name of my company was actually going to be Finish the Damn Book Already. But I thought, my mom's not going to like that too much. So I just thought, okay, Finish the Book Publishing. And that's how it became, known. And then, of course, too, I started using the pineapple, and the pineapple, if you the whole story is on my website, but really it is a nod to my years in the hospitality industry. But if you look closely at that pineapple, the little tiny squares in the body of it are actually little tiny books that represent me helping people get their books out into the world.
Oh, I love that. It's one of those, it's a layered sort of meaning, a layered sort of, oh, I just love that. Because I was actually talking with somebody earlier today about how we create stuff for us, but leave room for other people to interpret it however they want to. And then they get what they need out of what you're providing. And I'm just kind of curious, how do you see the magic in other people?
Well, that's every person is different. Every author is different. When I work with people, it's really my job, and this is part of why I'm so good at what I do. I'm not saying that to be egotistical, but because people like working with me because I'm able to really see the real them. I'm also a psychic intuitive, and so that really helps me do my job. And because I'm able to really tap into the essence of who that person is. Who are they as an author? What does this book mean to them? What's the bigger picture? And so, it's just, it's really a fascinating process for me. I never ever thought that my intuitive abilities would actually go along with publishing, but I discovered that, yes, they do go hand in hand, and actually they work really well. And it just allows me to showcase that person for their own uniqueness, their own inner mermaid or inner unicorn, right? So, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I love that. I think also when you created that name for your business, you stumbled upon something, at least this is my interpretation. And as I mentioned, we all we take our own things away from stuff from our perspective and our own stories that we tell ourselves. And I just kind of feel like there's got to be some sort of through line, or there's a common reason why people don't actually want to publish, or they feel like maybe they aren't an author. And I'm curious what you come across, because I know there's people out there watching going, yeah, but that's not me. I couldn't do that.
It happens a lot. And in fact, I think that's the number one thing why people don't end up finishing their book and publishing, is because they get to a point where they think nobody's going to care what I have to say, or my story doesn't matter, or there's some type of deeply rooted belief about worthiness. A lot of this stems from our childhood. And so that's part of what I do, is let's unwrap that. Let's figure out, where is that coming from? Why do you think that your story is not important? Because I can guarantee, if you have a story to tell, there's somebody else that is looking for that story.
Oh, amen to that. Exactly. And also, I think it comes back down to, it doesn't really matter what the result is, as long as you're happy doing it. And, it's as much about the process as it is about the result. I think about like famous artists that were never, they didn't sell a single painting while they were alive. And now they're just, the cat's meow and the greatest thing ever. And I just wonder, would they, I'm glad that they still created, even though they weren't technically successful in their lifetime. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, and I think that's true even for authors. You know, sometimes we've heard this before. It's really about the journey, and the people that I work with are usually, if we work together for 6 or 9 months, the people that I started working with are not the same people that end up when they have their book finished and when they're published. They have gone through their own personal transformation, their own journey, to really, level up, become a different person, learn some things. And it's not just the technical aspects of publishing, it's more about the self-discovery. And I think that is really important, because as we see, books are that gateway, right? To opening up conversation, community, creating community. And so when we do that, we're creating connections with people. It is very important, I think, to actually be able for people to leave a legacy, because if we don't have the written word about what that person's experience was like, then that gets lost forever.
Mm-hmm.
So for our children and our grandchildren, it is important that our grandparents tell their stories and that we have them in some way. In many cultures, it is the written, or it is the spoken word that is actually transferred through stories, like in indigenous communities and that type of thing. But we have the opportunity to write those stories and to make them a part of our documented history. So, right, let's continue that. Let's make sure that the legacy of our families lives on.
Yes. Oh, I love that so much. And, I always love this idea to ask better questions. So, like, instead of who am I to, who am I not to? Like, what makes me think that, I'm not changing the world by helping one person? I think that we underestimate the power that we like have, and a simple, I don't know, smile or something, it just makes such a difference. So why wouldn't something a little more creative, where you put all this effort into it, why wouldn't that make a difference? Even if it's just one person, that's one person that made a difference for. And that could be you, but I mean, don't you matter? Isn't that
Exactly.
enough? Everything else is gravy as far as I'm concerned.
That's very true. And I think that's really how people are looking at their lives right now, saying, it's not just about me, it's about, how do I give back? How do I create community around that? Whether it might be people with PTSD, or people that have suffered trauma, or people that are going through a divorce, or whatever that looks like. Being able to find people that have similar situations, to create conversation and support and community around that. I think that's really where humanity in general is headed. And so we have an opportunity to do that. And it's really wonderful to be able to see people create those communities.
It is. I like this idea too of a book creating community because I know for me, I used books growing up as an escape from some horrible things that were happening in my day to day life. And they saved me. It was a rich fantasy world where I could just escape into something that was truly remarkable and put myself there. And I think that we underestimate the power of the written word so much. Um, I'm curious, what would you say to somebody who's on the fence about should I write this book or shouldn't I? And when do I bring in somebody such as yourself?
Well, I think the first step is to have a conversation about it. And, that's why my consultations are always free. 30 minutes, it really can make you decide that, yes, I want to publish this, or maybe no, I don't want to publish this.
Mhm.
Or maybe what I need to do is actually just journal about this situation, excuse me, or about what it is I'm teaching, or that type of thing. Let me journal about it. Let me get a little bit more into it and figure out, okay, now does this have legs, right? But
Mhm.
honestly, a 30-minute conversation is the first step. And of course, too, when I meet with people, I also send them a copy of my guidebook, because I just think it's important for people to have the information so that they don't have to second guess if they're on the right path or not.
Oh, I love that. And I mean, anytime that we do anything new, it's not expecting to be the best or whatever. I just feel like as long as you're being true to who you are, I don't know. To me, it's just like, I don't want to be somebody else. I just want it to be my message about me, or not about me necessarily, but maybe like what my perspective is on something. So I don't know. I don't know. How did you end up working in publishing though? Of all, I mean, because you are a psychic intuitive and you do have, I mean, those are just a couple of labels that we put on you. So you're so much more than that. But I'm just curious, how did you decide, I think this is where I want to be and this is what I want to be doing with my days?
Hmm. So I have a background in corporate America. And, I spent over 30 years working in human resources. I have a background in television, media, radio. And so I just never found like I had the right thing. I went through a divorce. And then shortly after, a friend of mine who had a publishing company said, "Hey, I'm looking to expand. Would you like to learn this?" And I had been one of those early readers as a child. And
Uh-huh.
so I said, well, yes, if I have the opportunity to learn how to create books, this is so cool, right? So I jumped at it, and I really was able to learn a lot at having a mentor in the industry, and then eventually decided to open my own brand, and then, as they say, the rest is history. So yeah, so it was one of those things where it was just the right opportunity at the right time, and I was looking for something different.
Wow, I really like that. Something you said, you were an early reader. Me too. My mom put me in Montessori so that I could learn how to read quicker. I was reading real books by the time I was in kindergarten. And I don't mean, the cat in the hat. I mean like real actual books. So I definitely have an affinity towards books as well. But I love that you're able to marry different parts of you together in order to be successful, not just for you, but for all the people that you're helping and all the people that get to read those books. How does it feel to know that have this ripple effect that is truly remarkable? I mean, you probably don't think about it like that, but most people don't. But do you realize that you have this ripple effect that not only are you helping this one person create their book, but they're also helping all those people that read it, et cetera, and all the people in their daily life.
Exactly. And it's funny that you use that term ripple effect, because I use that exact phrase in my bio on my website,
Okay.
because I believe that that's what we have the ability to do. When one person tells their story, then by putting your book out there, you're now accessible to the masses. So
Mhm.
whether you're teaching a program or you're working through something in your life, it does have a ripple effect. And when we do that healing work, especially for people with PTSD or trauma or anything like that in their lives, when we do that healing work, and writing is probably one of the best ways to work through healing issues. Um, it does have a ripple effect because it's shared with other people. But as we're doing the work on ourselves, it actually, studies are now showing us that when we do healing work on ourselves, it actually repairs our DNA, excuse me, our DNA, and it can affect the members of our family and the people in our close circles. So it does have a ripple effect in so many different ways. And this is why I think that people don't understand quite how powerful writing can be.
What is it? Spells. Yeah. Spelling. Spelling. I always
Spelling,
love that term because we're casting spells with our words. You know, I really like this idea too. And I don't know if you know about this, but there is a study out there that says that if you make some sort of positive change, let's say quit smoking, for example. So you're doing that for you, literally, but there is a positive ripple effect of 6 people out that it affects. Every time you do something positive, you are automatically affecting 6 people out. It's kind of like the Kevin Bacon 6 degrees of separation, except it just keeps on going out. So I really
yes,
like this idea.
it's very true, and I see it. I work with a lot of veterans, and so that's why I talk a little bit about PTSD, is because a lot of the people I work with have suffered PTSD from their experience in military service, and
Mhm.
even law enforcement, childhood trauma. There's so many human trafficking victims, or survivors, I should say. So when I work with these people, you're right. It does have an effect, because when we can help them work through some of these things, it now affects their family. It affects, that 6 degrees of separation. And this is how we can, one person at a time, one book at a time, help heal the world.
I like that. Too, speaking about PTSD and then of course grief and trauma, all these things that kind of go hand in hand. There's so much lower vibration feelings, or emotions, I should say emotions, that are out there. But if we can just sort of acknowledge it and make it a safe place to let those feelings come through us and know that we're not alone, we're also creating that community as well. And I always love it when people say, I wrote this because this is what I needed and it wasn't
Right.
out there. That to me, it's like, oh, God bless you. I love that.
And then what happens is, once that author has now published that book, it's amazing, because that author is now attracting those types of people, those people that are vibrationally in the same situation, because they're now finding that book and saying, hey, we have something in common. Let's develop a support group. Let's do a book club. Let's do something together, because now we have a commonality.
Yeah, somebody who has another understanding, more so. It's kind of like when you lose a parent or a sibling or something like that. Not everybody knows what that feels like. I mean, I know everybody's experience is different too. However, once you've been through something of that nature, or a significant other or something, it's like, oh, you're part of that club. Okay, you get it. I might listen to you more about how to walk through this process versus somebody else.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I always say, you know what? If you haven't walked through it, then all of us have our own set of waiters, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I like that so much. So when people are walking through this process of writing their book, I'm 100% positive that a bunch of resistance comes up and a bunch of this isn't good enough. And that people don't have an understanding that this is just resistance. It's kind of like it's just a part of the creative process. And we attach meaning to it. We, as in me, and I know I'm not the only one. Like, does this mean I shouldn't be doing this? Does this mean why is it so hard? Well, I think it's only hard because I'm deciding it is. But I mean, when you're in it, then of course it feels different. But what do you say to those people who are walking through the resistance? Because it's up and down. It's not constant. It just comes and goes like anything else. But what would you say to them when they're walking through those moments?
I think this is why it's really important to have a team to help you with the writing process, editing, the production of publishing your book, cover design, like all those things, because that little self doubt, that little voice in our head always creeps up, and at the most inopportune times. And so you have to have a team of people that are going to support you, and sometimes talk you off the ledge, right? Um, One of the things that I love to do with authors is what's called a book visioning session. And what we do is we actually break it down so that um, it makes it more tangible for them, and it breaks it down into smaller pieces so it doesn't seem so overwhelming. The thought of writing a whole book can just like be a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So instead, we look at the three things that I call the trifecta of publishing, which is your story, your brand, your community, and how do those three things come together to support your cause or mission. Cause-based publishing is a huge foundational piece of my business because I want people to find those connections and create community around that,
Mm-hmm.
to get the conversation going, to create a global movement, whatever that's going to be. So what is your mission and purpose? Then we actually take the book and we break it down even further. We reverse engineer the book. And so instead of writing a table of contents and an outline like we were taught in school, that's very linear thinking, it's in your head. We get into a process that breaks it down and makes it super easy using sticky notes. And what this does is this gets you into a heart-centered place where you're writing from the heart instead of writing from your head.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes a very easy process to incorporate into your day-to-day life.
Mm, I like that too, because I think a lot of us do try and get up in here, and then that's not really where the magic is, unless you're talking figures and facts, where that it just is what it is. But most of us who are writing books are not writing text like, school type things. It is more, yeah, sharing. Oh, I love that so much. It's like how to bypass that part. And that's where
Yes.
the resistance comes in. It's like, how can you get around that? I know for
Yeah.
me, one of the things I used to do when I was drawing a lot was I'd have to just sit through this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. Like I just keep going until that voice finally calmed down. So I love that. We are actually running low on time, and I always like to ask my guests before we end, what is something you wish that I would have asked you?
Um, I I'm not sure because you asked some really good questions. Usually it's the question about the pineapple, like why the pineapple?
Yeah.
And I'll just kind of go back to that because it actually does have more meaning than just, okay, this is cool, and the logo itself, like, expresses me helping people get their books out into the world. But really, the symbol of the pineapple is about hospitality, friendship, and welcoming. And
Mm,
that's the way I want people to feel when they work with myself and the people that we create the production team for them. I want them to feel like they're supported and held. I want them to feel like they can talk to us like we're friends. My authors typically become my friends. And so that's really important for me to be able to have that kind of feeling while they're getting white glove service. So, the pineapple, even in ancient times, used to be used as a gift to hosts
mhm.
for prosperity. So there's all these different things that come to mind when you see the logo, but it's still yet fun and playful, and encourages people to like just let's just have a conversation.
Oh, I love that. It is fun. I know it attracted me because sometimes, and it depends. Like, are you going to read or are you going to, visually look at the picture? And I'm a little bit of both. But
Mhm.
if I didn't like the picture, I wouldn't read the words. So that's kind of how I roll. Um, no, but I really do love that. The other thing too I wanted to ask really quick is, you mentioned about being a psychic intuitive, and I literally, this is just a really quick question, but do you find it hard to, like, do people, because what you do is kind of businessy, but also there is so much creativity to it. Do people kind of go, "Ooh, she's psychic and intuitive. Should I be afraid?" Like, does that happen? Or people kind of like, "Oh, thank goodness you can help me, really." What's your experience?
It's actually the latter. I think people are really open to it, and it's
Yeah.
not something that it's like I'm not reading people's minds.
Yeah.
Usually, I need to get into that kind of mindset. In fact, I did a reading for someone earlier today, and so it's creating the container to be open to receiving messages while I'm doing a reading.
Mhm.
And so, it's not, I can just have a conversation with somebody and not be actually channeling. So
I
it
love
is,
that.
you can turn it on and off. Um, and really, I don't think it's anything that is scary for anybody. My intention is that when I'm working with my higher self and the channel messages that are coming in, that they're only what is for this person's best and highest good. I don't want anything that is scary or negative
Yeah,
or creepy, none of that. So it's
I
only the
love
intention that it's only for their best and highest good. Yeah, only
I love
positive
it.
messages.
Oh, man. Well, on that note, that is all the time that we have for today. I know it goes so quick, but Susie, thank you so much for being on the show. I truly appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, Julianne.
And for those of you who are watching us, thank you for joining us. We will be back again next week on Thursday. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week.